right.
Dun, dun, dun,
Do-do-do-do. Is that your turbo tip?
That was it. Boy, that was exciting, wasn't it?
It was. I didn't even know about it.
Oh my gosh. All right, that's my turbo
And
tip.
now,
Workbench!
Workbench!
Let me clean up your mess here.
And Workbench is about as exciting. Is not very exciting. We're not tearing machines apart today. Instead, well, I was gonna, but then I was like, you know
I
what?
like tearing
There's some
machines
basic
apart.
stuff. Because I was thinking back to my days of yore.
My days of
Oh yeah. Did you know that I was at one
yore?
point in the Army Reserves as a mechanic? So I was taught by the military how to troubleshoot.
Oh,
And you know what the first rule of troubleshooting is?
nope, but I lost it.
Oh, and this sergeant used to yell at you.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, that's exactly
Yes.
what you
No,
do.
the first rule of troubleshooting, which is very interesting, is confirm the problem. And I thought that this would be I just wanted to kind of get into that real quick. as we talk.
Confirm that it is a problem? Well, confirm
Ver-
the
ver-
problem.
ver-
I have a problem.
Yeah.
I need a cutter and a ruler.
You got-
A little one, please.
But verifying the problem is very important when it comes to troubleshooting. And we see this a lot, and Eddie can attest to this. We'll have people bring in a machine to the shop and say, it's doing X, Y, or Z. First thing we do is we throw it on the bench and make sure it's acting like they say it does. And I would say half the time it doesn't.
That's
Be-
because it's here.
That's because it's here. That's correct. And so I just wanted to kind of get into a few quick troubleshooting things to do before you throw your hands up and bring your machine into us.
You know what my sister and my mother-in-law do?
They call you.
They call me. And I go, blah, 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 and they go,
And that's
it's working fine now.
yes. And that brings me to
Like
two
I
things. There's a few things you can do real quick to make sure it's going to work. But another thing that's very important, especially if you're going to bring it in to get it serviced and you're having issues, is not only verify the problem, but see if you can consistently reproduce it. Because if you're having a problem, if you can consistently reproduce it, that makes our job as techs a whole lot easier, because you just come and say, it's going to do X, Y, or Z when I do A, B, or C. So we will know that by doing A, B, or C, we will see the problem, and then we can troubleshoot the problem.
Okay.
There's a few things you can do really quick before you're like, oh my gosh, my machine's broke. Because I worked IT for years, and you have those people in the office that the first thing they do, if the computer doesn't do what they want it to, is they give you a call. My computer's broken, and then you go look at it, and it's like, well, you didn't turn it on. I mean, it's.
For real?
It,
No.
oh yeah,
Oh, Lord.
because they didn't turn their monitor on one morning. They turned the tower on, but they didn't turn the monitor on.
Yeah.
Have you tried
yeah,
turning it off and on again?
Yep.
Yeah.
So a couple quick things you can do to troubleshoot is always rethread the top. I mean, I think everybody knows this, but it's one of those things I'm going to ask you to do when you call me up and say, did you try rethreading it? And that's the top and the bottom. Pull your physically take your bobbin out of the machine and put it back in the machine. That's a quick, easy, that I will say solve 9 out of 10 problems. Okay, maybe not, but it's a place to start. The other thing, now, if the problem persists after that, another quick thing to try is try a different spool of thread. I know a lot of people don't do this. They just assume, oh, machine's gone, I rethreaded it, it's not working. Sometimes it's the thread. Even if you've been using that same thread for 3 or 4 projects, you might have come to a bad spot on the spool, which I know sounds weird, but it happens. But try a different thread to see if the problem goes away. That would be the other one.
This is the order you would do it in?
This is the order I would do it in. Unless I can look at it and see that tension's off.
How would you do it?
I would change my needle before I fiddled and diddled with a new spool of thread.
But what if it's going in?
I still would change my
And
needle
that's a fantastic.
first, because they come in bad.
Yes, that's a fair point. Honestly, I skipped over that because
Blah, blah, blah.
no, because no. By the time it gets to us, we're usually looking at a mechanical problem,
Yeah.
and a lot of times with the needle, it's going to be a stitch quality issue. It's not necessarily going to manifest itself as a mechanical problem, except when you're getting shredded thread, which can happen with a bad needle.
Or the bobbin, and because we changed the top, we rethreaded it both directions, I'm thinking I'm going to change my needle too, because it's in that path.
Yeah, it's fair. Change the needle.
When in doubt.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, because a bent needle is often a problem, and it can be bent ever so slightly that you're not going to catch it. But
Or
those.
they haven't put it in all the way. That's another
Yeah,
good one.
and this all relates, and I was going to say this is going to be most of your problems with them, is your thread path. Thread path is a reference to where your thread is going, and so If all of that doesn't fix it, the next thing to do is just check that there's no, one of the things I have seen on some machines is there'll be like a piece of plastic that'll have like a notch in it where the thread, because like a polyester thread over time will actually cut holes or cut grooves in plastic. And I have seen that you can find, there's actually a few specific models I see this with that'll actually go through, take an emery board and file plastic down, because it will cut holes and it'll cut a groove in the plastic, and then you'll start shredding thread because it's grabbing your thread. So always check your thread path. Make sure that that's clear and you're not running into anything. And this is very important, because I had one lady that would bring her machine in. It keeps shredding thread. I'm having all these problems. And then I would fire it up, no issues. And so finally I said, let me come to your house and see what's going on. Well, it turns out at home she had a spool stand behind her machine that would get caught on a lamp post when she was sewing, because it would come off and the loop would just catch, on a lamp, and then it just enough to throw the tension off. And once I saw that, I just moved the spool stand about 3 inches to the left.
And
everything
all was
went away.
good. All was good.
But that machine had,
yeah.
but that
at
machine
least.
that machine had come in probably 3 times for that same problem, and every time we'd throw it up. First thing we do, verify the problem, no issues. Sprinkle it with holy water, brush it out, and send it home. I mean, that's. And then she'd come back in next week, same thing.
Oh,
so finally, I
man.
just made the trip out, and so there is some environmental things to look out for. So thread path is another big one.
Also different machines. Do they go under or over?
Because I know brother likes it a certain way.
You're talking about the
The
thread?
thread,
The spool of
the
thread?
spool of thread. That's one of those online debates that depending. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
When in doubt, just always
Use a comb?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
like standing up my thread.
Yeah, that's actually
Just
one
a
of the
better-
troubleshoot. That's
better,
one of the
easier
things
way
that
to
we'll
do it.
always do is if we, especially on older machines, you know, where the pin on top that pulls it out.
Yeah.
First thing we're gonna do is throw it on a cone stand, and that eliminates a lot of problems. That is a huge issue. That if you don't have a cone stand, if nothing, get a cone stand. That will clear up a lot of issues, especially on older machines. But like I said, the big thing, like I said, I want to talk about Workbench tonight was really the thread path idea. Make sure that whatever path that thread is taking from the spool to your needle is clear and it's not obstructed by anything or catching on anything. And keep in mind, like I said, the case with the cone stand is when you get going fast, there's loops that'll fly off of there. So if you have something next to that stand, you might be catching it accidentally. And then the other big thing, while we're talking about it, is the plastics on your spools. I've actually sold a machine once because a woman came in and said, this machine is garbage, I want a new one. And I just took one look at her spool and said, it's your spool of thread, because you can see the cracks on the back end. And she's like, I don't care, I want a new machine. And I'm like,
All
if that's
right,
the
yeah,
excuse you
yeah.
need, I'll sell you
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
But that is actually one of the things, the Coates and Clark thread. I'm not going to say that it's bad thread. It works. The issue that I've always found with Coates and Clark is actually the spools that it's on, because I don't know if it's quality, especially as you get lower, there's burrs and stuff that it gets caught on as it comes off. It might have changed in the last few years, but that is the biggest issue I have with a specific thread. It's going to be Coates and Clark's dual duty. It's not bad thread. It's serviceable thread, I'll say. It's the spool that it's on will give you lots of headaches. So that's why I say one of the things you should try is swapping out your thread, because sometimes it's not the thread, it could be just the spool itself. So that's the Workbench for tonight, just some quick.
I have something to add to that because, like I said, the people who call me, they have the electronic machines, and they'll get it tied up in an issue, and we'll try that, and it still doesn't work, and I'll say, shut her down,
Yes.
shut it down.
Yes.
But don't turn it on immediately. I have this 30-second rule. Wait 30 seconds,
And
then turn it back on, and
Have you tried turning it off and
miraculously-
on again?
Not off and on. I
And there-
want it off, and I want it off for a little while.
there's a reason for that. On most electronics, you do have capacitors that are holding a charge.
Yes.
And by waiting 30 seconds or so, it allows it to dissipate, and you get a full reset of everything. If you off and on too quick, you may actually you really haven't
Right
broken
where you were.
right where you're at.
were.
So there is some reasoning to that logic that some people are like, why wait? But there's a reason they tell you to wait, is because to discharge, especially on anything electronic, wait that 30 seconds. That goes for not just these machines, a lot of your electronic devices.
Yeah,
Give it a second
but
to actually
definitely
reset.
Because I've had people, you know, it's not fun seeing my hoop, and it's not this, and it's not that, and you know, you troubleshoot it so far, and then
Mm-hmm.
he goes, shut it off. Just shut it off.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, it
Yep.
comes back on, and everything's
Yep.
good to go. I don't know why.
And
But it
I
works.
hate to say this, but I'm seeing it as the more advanced machines get. Like you see this more on a Luminaire. You're seeing it more on a Luminaire than you would see this on a Dream machine.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, no, this was a dream machine.
I see more
recently, so.
bugs, but that might also
Anyway.
have to do with
Anyway.
the longevity of them. But anyway,
Hey.
yes, turn it off and turn it back on is another one. But I was going to talk about thread path, but turning it off, turning it back on is another one. That's the Workbench. I know you all like when I tear into things, but
Yeah, I do.
next week we'll tear into something. I have an idea for next week.